Jack Harper moved quietly through the dense forest, his boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered earth as he navigated the twisting trails with practiced ease. The early morning fog clung to the tall pines and oaks, shrouding the landscape in a pale, ethereal light. Max, his loyal German shepherd, trotted just ahead, his ears perked and nose close to the ground, alert to every scent and sound. The bond between the two was evident in the way they moved, synchronized, attuned to one another's presence without the need for words. Jack had sought this remote wilderness to escape the noise of his past life, a former Navy SEAL haunted by memories of combat and loss. The forest was a sanctuary, a place where time slowed, and the only battles were with the elements and his own restless mind. But today, the serenity was fractured by an unsettling discovery. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. As they rounded a bend, Jack spotted a structure nestled among the towering trees. A small, weathered cabin whose wooden walls had faded to a dull gray. It seemed out of place, abandoned and forgotten in this vast expanse of wilderness. Jack's gaze sharpened. He hadn't expected to find any signs of habitation here, especially not so deep into the forest. Curiosity mixed with caution as he approached the cabin, Max padding silently beside him. The front door hung slightly ajar, creaking softly with the breeze. Jack pushed it open with a steady hand, peering inside. The interior was sparse. A rough wooden table, a rusted stove, and a few scattered belongings coated in dust. But it was what lay on the floor that caught Jack's attention. A dog collar, worn and frayed, unmistakably Max's. His heart skipped a beat. Max stopped at the threshold, sniffing the air, his body tense. Jack crouched down, picking up the collar with a frown. He had no idea how it had ended up here. Max's collar had gone missing months ago during a particularly harsh winter hike, a loss that had weighed heavily on both man and dog. Finding it now, abandoned in this forgotten cabin, was a mystery that sent a ripple of unease through Jack's calm exterior. Suddenly, a faint sound broke the stillness, a distant, desperate cry for help. It was barely audible, carried on the wind, but unmistakable. Jack's military instincts snapped into focus. The forest, once a refuge, had become a place of urgency and danger. He exchanged a sharp look with Max, whose ears twitched at the sound. Without hesitation, Jack rose, pocketing the collar, and set off in the direction of the cry. The terrain grew rougher, the underbrush thickening, but Jack's stride never faltered. Every muscle was coiled, ready for whatever lay ahead. Max darted ahead, weaving through the trees with ease, his keen senses guiding them closer to the source. The cry came again, more urgent, more pained, and Jack's pulse quickened. Whoever was out there was in trouble, and time was slipping away. As they pressed deeper into the forest, Jack's mind raced through possibilities. Was it a lost hiker? A victim of an accident? Or something more sinister? The wilderness was no stranger to peril, and Jack's experience told him that this was no ordinary call for help. The trees began to thin, revealing a small clearing bathed in dappled sunlight. At its center, Jack spotted a figure slumped against a fallen log, their movements weak and trembling. Relief surged briefly before it was replaced by concern. The person was a young woman, her clothes torn and dirt-streaked, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. Jack knelt beside her, his voice calm but firm. "I'm here to help. What happened?" She struggled to speak, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know where I am. I got separated from my group, and then I fell." Jack scanned the area quickly. There were signs of a struggle: broken branches, scuffed earth, and faint footprints leading into the forest's edge. Something wasn't right. The woman's distress seemed deeper than mere accident or misfortune. Max sat alert at Jack's side, growling softly, sensing the undercurrent of danger. Jack's hand instinctively moved to the small knife sheathed at his belt. He had come seeking peace, but now faced a rescue mission, fraught with unknown threats. He lifted the woman gently, easing her into a sitting position. "We need to get you to safety. Can you walk?" She nodded weakly, clinging to Jack's arm as he helped her to her feet. The forest around them, once a place of solitude, had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. Jack's resolve hardened. Whatever had brought this woman here and left Max's collar behind, he would uncover the truth. As they began the trek back through the trees, Jack's eyes scanned every shadow, every rustle. The forest held its breath, and so did he, ready for whatever lay ahead. Jack Harper's breath came steady and controlled as he supported the young woman through the dense undergrowth. Max close behind, his movements fluid and alert. The forest around them was alive, with the whispers of leaves and the distant calls of birds. But beneath the surface, an undercurrent of unease lingered. Jack's gaze swept over the towering pines and ancient oaks, their trunks mottled with moss and lichen, the canopy above filtering the sunlight into soft, shifting patterns on the forest floor. This wilderness was vast and untamed, a world apart from the chaos Jack had left behind in his military life. Here, the only battles were fought against the elements and the solitude. The forest's beauty was both harsh and nurturing, a paradox that mirrored Jack himself. He was a man carved by discipline and hardship, seeking refuge in nature's embrace, yet never fully able to escape the vigilance ingrained in his very being. Max, ever vigilant, moved with purposeful grace, his senses attuned to every scent and subtle shift in the environment. The dog's loyalty was unwavering, a constant companion through Jack's years of service, and now in this quest for peace. Their bond was forged in the crucible of survival, a silent language of trust and understanding that needed no words. The young woman, whose name she had yet to reveal, leaned heavily on Jack, her breaths shallow and uneven. Her clothes were torn, dirt smeared across her skin, and a bruise was beginning to form on her temple. Despite her fragile state, there was a flicker of resilience in her eyes, a spark that refused to be extinguished by fear or exhaustion. Jack's mind raced, piecing together what little information she had given. She had been separated from her group during a hike, lost and vulnerable in the vast forest. The signs of struggle around the clearing hinted at more than a simple accident. Something had frightened her, driven her into hiding, and left her stranded. As they moved cautiously through the thicket, Jack's training surfaced with clarity. His military background had honed his senses to detect danger even in the quietest moments. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves could signal a threat. He scanned the surroundings with a soldier's precision, looking for ambush points, escape routes, and anything out of place. The forest, though beautiful, was unforgiving. The ground was uneven, roots snaking across the path like hidden traps. Jack's boots found purchase on the mossy earth, his steps deliberate and steady to avoid injury to both himself and the woman he carried. Max's presence was a reassuring constant, his keen nose guiding them away from hazards and toward safety. Jack's own story was etched into the lines of his face and the strength in his shoulders. A former Navy SEAL, he had spent years in the crucible of war zones, mastering the art of survival and combat. But the transition to civilian life had been anything but smooth. haunted by the ghosts of fallen comrades and the weight of unspoken missions. Jack had retreated into the wilderness, seeking solace in the simplicity of nature. Yet, the forest was no stranger to trials. It tested him daily, physically, mentally, emotionally. The silence that once brought peace now carried the echoes of his past, and the burden of responsibility had shifted to protecting those who had stumbled into its depths. The woman's voice broke his thoughts. "I'm Emily," she whispered, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "Thank you for finding me." Jack nodded, offering a reassuring smile that belied the tension beneath the surface. "You're safe now, Emily. We just need to get you back to the ranger station. Help will be there." She managed a faint nod, wincing as she shifted her weight. Jack adjusted his grip, mindful of her injuries. "Can you tell me what happened? Anything you remember?" Emily's gaze darkened. "We were hiking in a group. I got separated when I slipped near the creek. But then, I heard footsteps. Someone was following me. I ran, but I don't know where. I hid in the cabin. And then I heard voices. I was scared." Jack's jaw tightened. The forest had become a trap, not just a sanctuary. Someone had been stalking her, turning a simple hike into a nightmare. The implications were chilling, and Jack's protective instincts flared. Max growled low in his throat, his gaze fixed on the shadows beyond the clearing. Jack followed the dog's line of sight, but saw nothing at first. Then, a flicker of movement. A glimpse of a figure slipping between the trees, vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Jack's hand instinctively moved to the sidearm, holstered at his hip, though he rarely carried it in the wilderness. The encounter was a stark reminder that danger lurked in unexpected places. He tightened his hold on Emily and increased his pace, eyes scanning relentlessly. The forest around them seemed to close in, the canopy thickening as they ascended a gentle slope. Sunlight filtered through in golden shafts, casting long shadows that danced with the breeze. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air, grounding Jack even as his senses remained on high alert. He thought of Max's collar, found in the cabin, a silent clue linking the dog to this mystery. The loss of the collar months ago had been a nagging question, and now its presence here hinted at a deeper story. Jack's mind churned with possibilities. Was there someone else out here? Someone who had taken the collar? And why? Emily's breathing grew steadier as they pressed on, her strength returning gradually. Jack offered water from his canteen, encouraging her to drink despite her reluctance. The simple act of care was a reminder of his commitment to protect, to serve, even outside the battlefield. As the forest thinned, the faint outline of a dirt path appeared ahead, a sign of civilization, however distant. Jack's relief was tempered by vigilance. The journey was far from over, and the shadows still held secrets. He glanced at Emily, whose eyes reflected a fragile hope. "We're almost there," he assured her. "Help is coming." Max padded beside them, his tail low but steady, ever watchful. The dog's presence was a balm to the tension, a symbol of loyalty and endurance. In this vast, wild place, Jack Harper was more than a man seeking peace. He was a guardian, a protector, a force ready to face whatever darkness the forest concealed. And as they moved forward together, the bond between man and dog, and now with Emily, began to forge something new. A fragile alliance born from survival and trust. The forest whispered around them, ancient and unknowable. But Jack was resolute. Here, in the heart of the wilderness, his battle had just begun. The cabin's worn wooden frame stood silent beneath the towering pines, shadows stretching long across the forest floor as the afternoon sun filtered through the canopy. Jack Harper's gaze lingered on the weathered door, now closed but etched in his memory. The discovery of Max's collar here had unsettled him, a mystery that refused to unwind easily. The forest around him felt alive with secrets, each rustle and whisper carrying weight. Max sat alert beside Jack, his ears twitching as he sniffed the air, muscles coiled like a spring ready to release. The dog's instincts were razor sharp, tuned to the subtlest shifts in the environment. For Jack, Max was more than a companion. He was a lifeline in this vast, unpredictable wilderness. Jack's mind churned as he stepped cautiously through the clearing, eyes scanning for any sign of recent activity. The cabin looked abandoned at first glance. Dust motes floated in shafts of light, and cobwebs hung in corners. But closer inspection revealed footprints pressed into the soft earth, fresh and scattered. Someone had been here not long ago. The faint cry for help that had drawn Jack here still echoed in his thoughts, a fragile thread pulling him deeper into the unknown. He knew that sound could mean life or death, and hesitation was a luxury he couldn't afford. Jack's boots crunched softly on broken twigs as he pushed the cabin door open once again, the hinges protesting with a sharp creak. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of damp wood and forgotten days. His eyes adjusted to the dim interior, a rough wooden table scarred by years of use, a rusted stove that hadn't seen fire in months, and scattered belongings that hinted at a transient occupant. Then, something caught his eye. A faded map pinned to the wall, edges curled and stained. Lines traced routes through the forest, marked with symbols Jack didn't immediately recognize. His fingers brushed over the paper, noting a small X near a creek not far from here. Could this be a clue? A sign left by someone desperate to be found? Max growled low in his throat, ears flattening as he stared toward the cabin's rear entrance. Jack followed the dog's gaze and spotted a narrow gap between the cabin and a thicket of brambles. It was barely visible, but enough to suggest a hidden path or secret escape route. Jack's pulse quickened. The pieces were assembling. Max's collar lost months ago, a cry for help, footprints, and now this covert trail. The forest was concealing more than just trees and wildlife. It was guarding a story that demanded unraveling. Suddenly, a sharp noise shattered the stillness. A twig snapping underfoot, close and deliberate. Jack spun, hand reaching for the sidearm holstered at his hip, muscles tensing for confrontation. Max growled, fur bristling, eyes locked on the underbrush. From the shadows emerged a figure, a man, lean and wiry, his clothes blending with the forest hues. His face was obscured by a hood, but his eyes gleamed with wary calculation. Jack's voice was steady, authoritative. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The man hesitated, then spoke in a low, gravelly tone. "I could ask you the same. This forest isn't safe for strangers." Jack's gaze narrowed. "I'm here to help, and I don't intend to leave without answers." The stranger's eyes flicked toward the cabin, then back to Jack. "That cabin? It's been a hideout for someone running from more than just the law. You're meddling in dangerous things." Jack's instincts flared. This was no random encounter. The man was guarding secrets, and the warning was clear. Yet, Jack's resolve only hardened. "I don't scare easily. If someone's in trouble, I'm going to find them." The man's expression shifted, part respect, part caution. "Then you'd best be careful. The forest watches, and it doesn't forgive mistakes." Before Jack could respond, the stranger melted back into the shadows, disappearing as swiftly as he had appeared. Max's growl faded, replaced by a tense silence that settled over the clearing like a shroud. Jack exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment pressing down. The forest was more than a refuge. It was a battleground of hidden dangers and whispered threats. The cry for help was no accident. It was a beacon amidst the darkness. He turned back to the cabin, eyes sharp. The faded map, the hidden path, the stranger's warning. They all pointed to a deeper mystery. Jack's mind raced, piecing together a puzzle with missing fragments, but a clear sense of urgency. Max nudged his hand, grounding him. Together, they moved toward the narrow gap between the cabin and the brambles. Jack pushed through the dense undergrowth, muscles straining against tangled branches. The path was rough but unmistakable, a trail faintly marked by broken twigs and crushed leaves. The forest closed behind them, shadows deepening as the sun dipped lower. Jack's senses heightened, every sound amplified. The distant call of a hawk, the rustle of small creatures in the brush, the steady panting of Max at his side. Suddenly, the faint cry for help echoed again, closer now, desperate and raw. Jack's heart thudded in his chest. The source was near. He quickened his pace, Max leading with unwavering determination. The trail wound through thick stands of fir and cedar, dropping toward a narrow creek where the water whispered over smooth stones. The air was cooler here, tinged with the scent of damp earth and pine resin. At the creek's edge, Jack spotted a shallow depression, partially concealed by ferns and fallen leaves. He knelt, brushing aside debris to reveal footprints, fresh and hurried, marked by a struggle. The evidence was undeniable. Max growled softly, nose to the ground, tracing a scent that led deeper into the forest. Jack rose, scanning the trees with a tactical eye. The forest was alive with movement, shifting shadows, glimmers of light, but no clear sign of the person in distress. Jack's mind raced through scenarios. A lost hiker, a potential captor, someone hiding in fear or danger. The unknown was a weight he bore heavily, fueled by the urgency of the cry and the mystery of Max's collar. He paused, listening intently as the forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, a faint rustling to his left, a quick, panicked shuffle among the undergrowth. Jack motioned for Max to stay close and move silently toward the sound, every step deliberate. Behind a dense thicket, he found her. A young woman, dirt-smudged and trembling, eyes wide with fear and relief. She collapsed into Jack's arms, the exhaustion evident in her frame. "I'm here," Jack whispered, steadying her. "You're safe now." Her voice was a fragile thread. "Thank you. I thought I'd never be found." Jack's gaze hardened with renewed purpose. The cabin's secrets, the cry for help, Max's lost collar, they were all threads in a tangled web. And Jack Harper was determined to follow them wherever they led. Jack pressed deeper into the forest, each step deliberate as he led the trembling woman through the thickening underbrush. Max padded silently beside them, his keen senses alert to every whisper of movement, every shift in the shadows. The dense canopy overhead filtered the fading light into muted greens and golds, casting an otherworldly glow that seemed to hold the forest in suspended time. The woman's breath was shallow, her grip on Jack's arm tightening with each uncertain step. Her eyes darted nervously, scanning the dense foliage as if expecting danger to spring from the shadows at any moment. Jack's military training sharpened his awareness. He recognized the signs of trauma, the heightened alertness born of fear and survival instinct. His mind mapped the treacherous terrain with precision, moss-covered roots twisting across the path, loose stones threatening to betray a misstep, and the thick tangle of branches that could conceal unseen threats. The forest was both protector and predator, a living maze that demanded respect and vigilance. "Stay close," Jack instructed softly, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his muscles. We're moving towards the ranger station. It's not far, but the path isn't easy. The woman nodded, swallowing hard. Thank you, she whispered. I'm Sarah. Jack offered a brief nod, committing her name to memory. You're safe with us. Just keep moving. As they advanced, Jack's gaze swept the environment, noting subtle clues that suggested recent passage, a broken twig here, a disturbed patch of earth there. These signs told a story of someone fleeing, hiding, and desperate to avoid detection. He shared a glance with Max, whose ears twitched in response. The forest was alive with sounds. The distant call of a woodpecker, the rustle of leaves as a squirrel darted through the branches, the steady babble of a nearby creek. Yet beneath these natural melodies, Jack sensed a tension, a hidden presence that watched and waited. Sarah's breathing grew more even as she found her footing, but the shadows behind them seemed to lengthen, the sense of pursuit unrelenting. Jack's instincts urged caution. Their journey was far from over. Suddenly, a faint noise rippled through the trees, a snap of a branch, too deliberate to be natural. Jack froze, signaling Sarah to stop. Max's hackles rose as he scanned the perimeter, nostrils flaring to catch any scent. Someone's close, Jack murmured, voice low and controlled. Stay behind me. The woman's eyes widened, but she nodded, trusting the steadiness in his tone. Jack's hand moved instinctively to the knife strapped to his belt, fingers curling around the hilt. Years of training guided his movements, transforming fear into readiness. From the shadows, a figure emerged. A man, gaunt and weathered, eyes sharp and wary. His clothes blended with the forest hues, and his posture was tense but non-aggressive. Jack's gaze held steady. Who are you? Jack demanded, voice firm yet measured. The man hesitated, then spoke with a gravelly edge. I'm just a hunter passing through. Didn't mean to startle you. Jack's eyes narrowed, studying the stranger's every micro-expression. This forest isn't safe right now. There's someone out here in trouble. The hunter's gaze flickered toward Sarah, then back to Jack. I've seen things. Strange movements, people moving in shadows. You're not the only one searching. Jack's mind raced. The forest was a stage for more than lost hikers and wandering hunters. There was a deeper story unfolding, one of secrets and silent threats. He stepped forward, lowering his voice. If you know something, tell me. Lives are at stake. The hunter's eyes darkened. You'd be wise to watch your back. Not all who wander are lost. Some are hunting. Jack's jaw tightened. The warning was clear, the danger closer than he'd imagined. He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes reflected growing fear. We need to keep moving, Jack said firmly. Stay close, and don't make a sound. As they pressed onward, the forest seemed to close in, the dappled light fading to twilight hues. Every rustle, every distant call, was a reminder of the precarious balance between safety and peril in this wild place. Jack's mind cycled through possibilities. Who was hunting, and why? What had happened to Sarah's group? And how did Max's lost collar fit into this tangled web? The answers remained elusive, hidden beneath the canopy and the thick undergrowth. But Jack's resolve was unshaken. He was a man shaped by discipline and loyalty, driven to protect those caught in the forest's grip. With Sarah leaning on him for support and Max ever vigilant at his side, Jack prepared for the challenges ahead. The forest was vast, its secrets deep and dangerous, but he was ready to face whatever waited in the shadows. The forest around Jack Harper tightened like a noose, shadows deepening as the fading daylight struggled through the thick canopy. Every step forward felt heavier, weighed down by the oppressive silence that had settled. a silence that was anything but peaceful. The crunch of leaves beneath their boots echoed unnervingly, each sound amplified in the stillness. Jack's senses, honed by years of military discipline, were sharp and unyielding. He scanned the dense foliage with hawk-like precision, searching for any sign of movement, any clue that could shed light on the danger closing in around them. Beside him, Sarah's breaths came in shallow gasps, her body trembling from exhaustion and fear. She clung to Jack's arm, her strength waning but her will to survive undiminished. Max, ever vigilant, prowled ahead, nose to the ground, ears twitching, alert to the faintest disturbance. The dog's low growl was a subtle warning, a signal that something was amiss. Jack's mind raced as he pieced together the signs of recent struggle. Broken branches, disturbed earth, and scuffed footprints told a story of desperation and flight. It was clear that whoever had been here was trying to escape something or someone. The forest was no longer a refuge. It was a trap, and time was running out. Suddenly, a sharp crack shattered the eerie stillness, too deliberate to be natural. Jack froze, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. He motioned for Sarah to stay close, lowering his voice to a whisper. "We're not alone. Stay behind me." Sarah's wide eyes met his, a mixture of trust and terror. Jack's hand moved to the knife at his belt, fingers tightening around the hilt. He knew that whatever was out there was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. The sound came again, a rustle in the underbrush, subtle but unmistakable. Jack's gaze snapped toward the source, catching a glimpse of a shadow slipping between the trees. His heart hammered in his chest as he signaled Max to hold position. "We need to move," Jack whispered urgently. Quietly. They advanced cautiously, every step measured and silent. The forest seemed to close in, its towering trees forming walls that blocked out the dying light. The air was thick with tension, each breath heavy with anticipation. Jack's tactical mind worked swiftly. He recalled survival techniques and escape routes, mentally mapping their path. His years as a Navy SEAL had trained him to read the environment, to anticipate threats before they materialized. Now, those skills were vital to keep Sarah safe. As they rounded a bend, Jack spotted fresh footprints leading toward a narrow ravine. The prints were hurried, uneven, signs of someone fleeing in panic. He followed the trail, careful to stay hidden beneath the dense foliage. Max led the way, nose to the ground, tracing the scent with unwavering focus. The dog's alertness was a beacon of hope amid the uncertainty. Suddenly, Jack heard a faint groan ahead. He quickened his pace, pushing through the underbrush until he came upon a shallow pit concealed by leaves and branches. At the edge lay a figure, slumped and motionless. Jack's heart leapt. He knelt beside the figure, brushing dirt and leaves aside to reveal a young man, bruised and battered, but alive. The man's eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding his gaze. "Can you hear me?" Jack asked gently, his voice steady and reassuring. The man nodded weakly, attempting to sit up. Jack supported him, checking for injuries. There were cuts and bruises, but no broken bones. Luck, considering the fall. "Who did this to you?" Jack pressed, eyes narrowing. The man's voice was hoarse. They took the others. Said we were trespassing. I escaped, but they're still out there." Jack's jaw clenched. The stakes were higher than he'd imagined. This was no random accident or lost hikers. It was a calculated, ruthless pursuit. He helped the man to his feet, supporting his weight as they moved back toward the path. Sarah watched, her fear mingling with determination. "We need to find the others," Jack said firmly, "and get everyone out of here." Max growled low, sensing the urgency. Jack's mind raced to formulate a plan. The forest was a maze, but it wasn't impenetrable. With careful strategy and the dog's keen senses, they had a chance. As they pressed forward, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the woods into twilight. The forest's shadows lengthened, and the temperature dropped. Jack's breath formed clouds in the cooling air. He paused, eyes scanning the darkness. The faint sound of voices drifted through the trees. Harsh, commanding. The captors were close. Jack's pulse quickened. He signaled Sarah and the injured man to stay hidden as he moved toward the source, Max silently at his side. The voices grew clearer, punctuated by the snap of branches and the occasional bark of a dog. Peering through the underbrush, Jack spotted a makeshift camp. A crude circle of tents and firelight flickering against the trees. Armed men patrolled the perimeter, their posture aggressive and watchful. Jack's mind mapped the scene. The captives, the guards, the terrain. He noted a narrow drainage culvert leading away from the camp, partially concealed by brush. It was a possible escape route. He retreated quietly, heart pounding, and returned to Sarah and the injured man. "There's a camp nearby," he whispered. "They're holding others captive. We need a plan." Sarah's eyes were fierce despite her exhaustion. "We can't leave them." Jack nodded, respect for her courage swelling. "We'll find a way, but we have to be smart. Rushing in blindly will get us all killed." Max sat attentively, as if understanding the gravity of the moment. Jack reached down, stroking the dog's head. Together, they were a team forged by trust and necessity. As darkness enveloped the forest, Jack's resolve solidified. The rescue would be dangerous, fraught with uncertainty, but failure was not an option. He glanced at Sarah and the injured man, determination shining in his eyes. "We move at first light. Rest now. We'll need every ounce of strength." The forest held its breath, the night alive with unseen eyes and whispered threats. But Jack Harper was ready. For the fight, for the rescue, and for the truth buried deep within the shadows. Night had fully descended over the forest, enveloping the trees in a dense, velvety black that swallowed sound and light alike. Jack Harper crouched silently beneath the thick boughs of an ancient pine, his breath steady but shallow, eyes fixed on the faint glow of the distant campfire flickering through the undergrowth. Max lay close by, muscles taut, ears pricked, every fiber attuned to the slightest movement in the darkness. The cold bit at Jack's skin, but his focus was unyielding. This was no time for distraction or fatigue. The plan had formed quickly after their grim reconnaissance. Armed with his Navy SEAL training and the sharp instincts honed over years of covert operations, Jack knew that any misstep could spell disaster. The captives were held in a makeshift encampment surrounded by armed guards, men who showed no mercy and seemed well prepared for intruders. A direct assault was out of the question. Instead, stealth and precision were paramount. Jack's fingers brushed over the cold steel of the knife strapped to his belt, a familiar weight that grounded him amid the tension. He glanced back at Sarah and the injured man, hidden a safe distance away, their faces illuminated faintly by the crescent moon. Both were exhausted, but their eyes burned with hope and trust, a responsibility Jack felt keenly. He whispered to Sarah, "We'll move under cover of darkness. Max will lead us through the safest path. Stay close and no sudden moves." Sarah nodded, swallowing hard but steadying herself. Jack admired her courage. Fear was natural, but she refused to let it paralyze her. Max rose silently, his nose to the ground, tracing the faint trail that wound through the undergrowth toward the drainage culvert Jack had spotted earlier. The narrow passage was obscured by thick brush and fallen leaves. but it offered a hidden route beneath the camp's perimeter, an escape tunnel, or perhaps a secret entrance. Jack motioned for the others to follow, every sense alert. The forest was alive with sounds. The crackle of the fire, muffled voices, the rhythmic pacing of guards. And yet, the night held its secrets close. The trio moved with practiced silence, the crunch of leaves muffled by careful foot placement and Max's guidance. As they approached the culvert, Jack knelt to inspect the entrance. It was narrow, damp, and cloaked in darkness, but stable enough to navigate. He shone a small flashlight briefly inside, revealing the tunnel's depth and the faint glimmer of light at its far end. "This is our way in and out," Jack whispered. "We'll use this to get close without being seen." Sarah's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and apprehension. "What if they're waiting for us?" Jack shook his head, voice low but firm. "They don't know we're coming. We'll use that to our advantage." He secured his knife and adjusted the strap of his pack, preparing for the cramped crawl ahead. Max hesitated for a moment, then slipped into the tunnel, disappearing into the darkness like a shadow. Jack followed, guiding Sarah and the injured man into the passage one by one. The walls were cold and slick with moisture. The air was thick and musty, but the shelter it provided from prying eyes was invaluable. Inside the culvert, the world narrowed to the beam of Jack's flashlight and the steady rhythm of their breaths. Time slowed, tension mounting with each inch deeper into the earth. The distant sounds of the camp faded, replaced by the oppressive silence of the tunnel. Emerging on the far side, Jack paused to listen. The camp was just beyond a thicket, sounds of voices and footsteps drifting faintly on the night air. The guards were numerous and alert, but their attention was focused inward, unaware of the threat creeping closer. Jack surveyed the layout quickly. Tents clustered around a central fire, men armed with rifles and pistols patrolling in pairs. The captives were somewhere within, hidden in the shadows. He knew the rescue depended on speed and surprise. He crouched low, signaling for Sarah and the injured man to do the same. Max settled beside him, eyes gleaming in the firelight. Jack's voice was barely a whisper. "We'll create a distraction near the east side of the camp. That'll draw some of the guards away. Then I'll move in to free the captives. Stay hidden until I give the signal." Sarah nodded, swallowing her fear. Jack could see the determination etched on her face, a fire that refused to be extinguished despite the danger. He slipped from the group, moving like a ghost toward the edge of the camp. Max followed, silent and focused. Jack scanned the perimeter, noting the guards' patrol routes and the positions of sentries. He found a small pile of dry leaves and twigs near a fallen log, the perfect fuel for a distraction. With a quick flick of his lighter, the pile ignited, sending a plume of smoke curling into the night sky. The crackling fire caught the attention of nearby guards, who rushed toward the source, weapons drawn and voices raised. Jack melted into the shadows, using the chaos to slip inside the camp. The flickering firelight cast long, dancing shadows as he moved swiftly between tents, searching for the captives. He found them huddled beneath a tarp, 3 men and 2 women, their faces pale but their spirits unbroken. Jack's presence was a balm, a promise of salvation. "Quiet," he whispered. "I'm here to get you out. Follow me." The captives nodded, gathering their strength as Jack led them back toward the drainage culvert. The night was thick with tension, every second a test of nerve and stealth. Behind them, the camp was in disarray. The guards were regrouping, shouting orders, and searching for the source of the chaos. Max growled softly, sensing the growing threat. Jack quickened his pace, guiding the group through the underbrush and into the safety of the tunnel. Once inside the culvert, the group moved swiftly but cautiously, the narrow passage providing cover but demanding care. Sarah waited anxiously at the entrance, relief flooding her face as the captives emerged one by one. Jack counted heads, none missing. The rescue was successful, but the danger was far from over. He turned to Sarah, eyes steady. "We need to move fast. They'll be after us." Max barked softly, as if in agreement. Together, they disappeared into the forest, shadows blending with shadows, as the camp behind them erupted in confusion and fury. Jack's mission had shifted from rescue to escape and survival. The forest, once a place of quiet refuge, was now a crucible of danger and determination. But with Max at his side and the captives safe, Jack Harper was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The night air was thick with tension as Jack Harper moved swiftly through the dense underbrush, the rescued captives and Sarah close behind him. Max led the way, his paws silent on the soft forest floor, every sense alert to the dangers that pursued them. The flicker of distant torchlight cut through the darkness, a stark reminder that the captors were not far behind, their shouts echoing through the trees like a storm gathering strength. Jack's heart pounded in rhythm with his steady breath. The forest, once a place of refuge and solace, had transformed into a crucible of survival. Every step forward was a calculated risk, every shadow a potential threat. But retreat was not an option. The lives of those in his care depended on his discipline, his resolve. Ahead, the narrow drainage culvert they had used to infiltrate the camp loomed once more, a slim passage of cold stone and damp earth that promised safety, or at least temporary shelter. Jack scanned the area quickly, ensuring the path was clear before motioning for the group to move. They slipped into the culvert one by one, the confined space swallowing their hurried whispers and the soft scrape of clothing against stone. The air inside was cool and musty, thick with the scent of earth and moisture. Jack's flashlight pierced the darkness, illuminating the tunnel's slick walls and uneven floor as they navigated the winding path. Despite the urgency, Jack's mind remained sharp, analyzing every sound and movement. The distant shouts outside faded to muffled echoes, but the threat was far from gone. He knew the captors would regroup and pursue relentlessly. Emerging on the far side, Jack led the group into a dense thicket where the forest canopy opened slightly, revealing a sliver of moonlight. The cool air was a balm, but the danger lingered like a shadow at their backs. "We need to keep moving," Jack urged, voice low but firm. "They'll be here soon." Sarah nodded, her face pale but resolute. The captives, though battered and weary, drew strength from his leadership. Jack's presence was a beacon amid the chaos, a reminder that hope persisted even in the darkest moments. Suddenly, a sharp noise shattered the fragile calm. A twig snapping underfoot, close and deliberate. Jack's body tensed instantly, muscles coiled for action. Max growled softly, eyes scanning the shadows. "Get down," Jack hissed, pulling the group low behind a fallen log. From the darkness emerged a figure, a man rough and weathered, face obscured by a hood. In his hands glinted a flashlight and a pistol, the beam sweeping the area with predatory intent. Jack's voice was calm but commanding. "Put the weapon down. You don't want to do this." The man snarled, stepping forward, his finger twitching on the trigger. "You think you can steal from me and walk away?" Jack's eyes narrowed, calculating. The man was tense, reckless, dangerous. But hesitation was a fatal weakness. In a flash, Jack lunged, his hand closing around the man's wrist, twisting the pistol away with practiced precision. Max leapt forward, teeth bared, forcing the man to stumble back. The struggle was brief but fierce. Jack's training took over: disarm, control, neutralize. Within moments, the man was subdued, pinned to the ground beneath Jack's weight. "Who sent you?" Jack demanded, voice low and steady. The man spat, defiant but beaten. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Jack's grip tightened. "Try me." A sudden rustle nearby warned Jack of approaching footsteps. Reinforcements. He glanced at Sarah and the captives, signaling them to move silently while he dealt with the captive. "Stay close," Jack instructed, helping the group to their feet as he dragged the man to his feet. "You're coming with us." The forest seemed to close in as they moved quickly, the distant shouts growing louder. Jack's mind raced, formulating a plan to evade the pursuers and get everyone to safety. Max led the way, nose to the ground, tracing a faint scent trail that wound through the undergrowth toward a narrow ridge. Jack followed, pushing the group onward despite the heavy weight of fatigue and fear. As they reached the ridge, the forest opened to reveal a steep drop overlooking a river that shimmered in the moonlight. Jack paused, scanning the area below. "This is our way out," he said quietly. "We'll follow the river downstream. It leads to the main road." Sarah looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. "Do you think we'll make it?" Jack's gaze was steady, unwavering. "We have to. Stay close and keep quiet." The group moved cautiously down the rocky slope, Max guiding them through the treacherous terrain. The river's roar filled the silence, a constant companion as they navigated the winding path. Suddenly, a volley of gunshots cracked through the night air, splintering trees and sending birds into frantic flight. Adrenaline surged through Jack's veins as he pushed the group to move faster, urgency propelling them forward. Bullets whizzed past, thudding into bark and stone, but none found their mark. Max growled fiercely, positioning himself between the group and the danger. Jack's mind calculated their odds. The pursuers were determined, but the forest was theirs to command. Every shadow, every bend in the river was a potential advantage. As dawn began to break, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the group emerged from the forest's edge onto a quiet country road. Exhausted but alive, they paused to catch their breath. Jack pulled out his radio, calling for emergency services and local authorities. Help was on its way. He looked at the captives, their faces marked by relief and disbelief. The ordeal was far from over, but for now, they were safe. Max nudged Jack's hand, a silent reminder of the bond forged in the crucible of danger. Jack Harper knew the fight had taken a new turn, a battle not just for survival, but for justice. And with the dawn breaking over the horizon, he was ready to face whatever came next. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting a pale glow across the quiet country road where Jack Harper and the rescued captives stood, their breaths heavy but relieved. The forest behind them loomed dark and silent, its secrets momentarily subdued but far from forgotten. Max sat at Jack's side, ever vigilant, his sharp eyes scanning the tree line as if expecting danger to re-emerge with the morning mist. Jack's radio crackled to life, the voice of the local sheriff confirming that help was on the way. Emergency responders were already mobilizing, alerted to the situation by Jack's call. The tension that had gripped the night slowly began to loosen, replaced by a cautious hope. As the ambulance and law enforcement vehicles pulled up, Jack stepped forward, briefing the officers on the events that had unfolded in the forest. His recounting was precise and measured, reflecting the clarity of a trained mind accustomed to chaos. The captives, still fragile but safe, were tended to by paramedics, their gratitude evident despite exhaustion. The sheriff approached Jack, his expression a mix of respect and concern. You did good out there. Without you, this could have been a lot worse. Jack nodded, the weight of the ordeal settling on his shoulders. There's more to this than just a rescue. The cabin, the captors, they're part of something bigger. The sheriff's brow furrowed. We've had reports of illegal activity in the area. Smuggling, human trafficking, but nothing concrete. Jack's eyes hardened. This confirms it. We need to investigate further. Together, they coordinated efforts to secure the forest perimeter and gather evidence. Jack led law enforcement back to the cabin, the site where Max's collar had been found months earlier, a crucial piece of the puzzle. The cabin, once forgotten, was now a key crime scene. Inside, forensic teams combed through the dilapidated structure, uncovering hidden compartments and discarded items that hinted at a larger operation. Maps, communication devices, and supplies pointed to a network using the wilderness as a cover for illicit activities. Jack's mind connected the dots. The lost hikers, the captives, the armed men, all threads woven into a sinister tapestry. The forest was not just a backdrop, but a battleground for a criminal enterprise exploiting its isolation. As the day progressed, interviews with the rescued captives revealed grim details. They spoke of being abducted while hiking, forced into labor, and threatened with violence. Their testimonies painted a harrowing picture of fear and resilience. Jack listened intently, his resolve strengthening. The mission that had begun as a solitary rescue had grown into a fight for justice, a battle against those who preyed on the vulnerable beneath the canopy. Outside, Max padded beside Jack, his presence a steady comfort amid the unfolding investigation. The dog's loyalty was unwavering, a symbol of the bond forged through adversity. By afternoon, the authorities had organized a coordinated sweep of the forest, mobilizing search teams to uncover other victims and dismantle the criminal network. Jack remained at the center of operations, providing tactical insight and guidance. The community, alerted to the dangers lurking nearby, rallied in support. Volunteers joined the search, local businesses offered resources, and a collective determination to reclaim their wilderness took root. Amid the flurry of activity, Jack found a moment to reflect. The discovery of Max's collar in the cabin was more than a coincidence. It was a catalyst that had led to exposing a dark secret. It reminded him of the fragile line between safety and danger, and the importance of vigilance. As evening approached, Jack stood at the edge of the forest, the fading light casting long shadows among the trees. The air was heavy with the promise of change, a shift from fear to hope. Sarah approached quietly, her eyes meeting Jack's. "Thank you," she said softly, "for saving us." Jack offered a small, tired smile. "We all have a part to play. The forest is safer now because we stood together." Max wagged his tail, nudging Jack's hand. The dog's unwavering companionship had been a beacon through the darkness. The investigation was far from over, and the road ahead would be challenging. But in this moment, Jack Harper allowed himself a rare sense of accomplishment, a recognition that courage, loyalty, and determination could illuminate even the darkest corners. The forest whispered around them, ancient and enduring, its mysteries slowly unraveling. And as night fell once more, Jack vowed to remain its guardian, ready to face whatever threats lurked beneath the towering pines. As the investigation unfolded, the forest gradually shed its aura of menace, revealing a community bound tighter by shared resolve and newfound connections. Jack Harper found himself at the center of this transformation, a man once seeking solitude, now embraced as a guardian and ally. The rescued captives, still fragile from their ordeal, began to heal under the watchful care of local medical teams and counselors. Their stories, though painful, wove a tapestry of resilience and courage that inspired those around them. Jack spent hours listening, offering quiet support, his presence a steady anchor amid the storm of recovery. Sarah, whose strength had carried her through the darkest hours, became a symbol of hope. She and Jack formed an unspoken bond, forged in the crucible of shared survival. Their conversations, brief but meaningful, hinted at a connection deeper than circumstance, a mutual recognition of the battles each had faced. In the days that followed, community meetings filled the town hall, voices rising in determination to protect their wilderness and one another. Plans took shape for increased patrols, education programs, and volunteer search teams. The forest, once feared, was becoming a place of vigilance and care. Jack worked closely with local law enforcement and federal agencies, his expertise invaluable in dismantling the criminal network that had exploited the forest's isolation. Raids led to arrests, and evidence uncovered a web of illegal activities spanning smuggling, forced labor, and violence. The operation was far-reaching, but progress was steady. Amid the bustle of investigations and community efforts, Jack found moments of quiet reflection. He often walked the forest trails with Max, the familiar rhythm of their steps a balm to his restless mind. The natural beauty around him, sunlight filtering through leaves, the whisper of wind in the branches, reminded him of the fragile balance between peace and peril. One afternoon, as golden light bathed the woods, Jack met with Sarah near the edge of a tranquil clearing. They spoke of the past, of the fear and uncertainty, but also of hope and recovery. Sarah's eyes held a quiet strength, and Jack felt a warmth he had long denied himself. "You saved me," she said softly, "not just from the forest, but from losing myself." Jack shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "We saved each other." Their connection deepened with each shared moment, a testament to the human capacity for healing and connection even after trauma. The community's efforts to safeguard the forest took root, with new signs posted along trails, volunteer patrols organized, and educational outreach launched in schools. Jack became a familiar figure, a guardian who balanced vigilance with compassion. Max remained ever faithful, his keen senses and unwavering loyalty a constant comfort to Jack and those around him. The dog's presence was a reminder that even in the wild, bonds could be forged that transcended fear. As winter approached, the town gathered for a ceremony honoring those who had stood against darkness and reclaimed their home. Jack was invited to speak, a rare public moment for a man accustomed to quiet strength. He spoke of courage, community, and the power of standing together. His words resonated, echoing through the hall and into the hearts of those who listened. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Sarah approached him, her smile radiant in the soft glow of lantern light. They walked together beneath a sky thick with stars, the forest whispering around them. Jack felt a sense of belonging, a home not defined by walls, but by shared purpose and connection. The journey that had begun with a lost collar and a desperate cry for help had led him here, to a place where healing and hope flourished. The bond between Jack, Sarah, and Max was a testament to resilience, the unbreakable threads woven through adversity. And as they stood together, the forest around them seemed to breathe with renewed life, a sanctuary reclaimed by those who loved it. In the quiet that followed, Jack Harper understood that his mission was no longer just survival. It was stewardship, friendship, and the promise of new beginnings. The winter air was crisp and clear, the forest blanketed in a soft layer of snow that muffled footsteps and brightened the quiet world beneath towering evergreens. Jack Harper moved steadily along a familiar trail, Max bounding ahead with unrestrained joy, his breath forming small clouds in the frosty morning light. The landscape, once shadowed by fear and danger, now felt like a sanctuary, a place reborn through resilience and collective care. Jack carried with him the weight of past battles, both those fought in distant lands and the more recent struggle to protect this wilderness and its people. But as he walked beside Max, he felt a profound sense of peace, a connection to the land and community that had grown stronger through adversity. The town nearby was waking slowly, its streets dusted with snow and warmed by the soft glow of lamplight. Jack's footsteps led him toward the community center, where a new program was underway. One dedicated to educating hikers, volunteers, and residents about safety, vigilance, and the shared responsibility of stewardship. Inside, Sarah stood by a display of maps and informational posters, her smile bright as she greeted newcomers eager to learn. Jack approached quietly, the familiarity of her presence a comfort amid the bustle. "We've come a long way," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the quiet strength that had carried her through so much. Jack nodded, gratitude swelling in his chest. "Together, we've made this place safer, not just by fighting back, but by building something lasting." The program was more than education. It was a call to action, an invitation to join a community that looked out for one another and honored the wilderness that surrounded them. Jack saw faces lit with hope and determination, people ready to stand as guardians of this shared home. After the session, Jack stepped outside, the cold air invigorating. Max wagged his tail, eager to explore the snowy trails once more. As they walked, Jack reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the discovery of a lost collar in a forgotten cabin, to the rescue of those in peril, the dismantling of a criminal operation, and the healing of a community. The forest whispered around him, its ancient voice a reminder of both fragility and strength. Jack understood that vigilance was not a burden, but a pledge, a commitment to protect and nurture. At the edge of a frozen creek, Jack paused, watching the sunlight dance on the ice. The quiet beauty of the moment was a balm to his soul, a promise of renewal. He thought of the bonds forged between himself, Sarah, Max, and the many others who had stood together in the face of darkness. These connections were the true foundation of safety and hope. As dusk approached, Jack and Sarah walked side by side along a snow-covered ridge, the sky painted in hues of violet and rose. Max trotted ahead, his joyful spirit a living testament to resilience. They spoke little, letting the silence speak volumes, the language of shared experience and unspoken understanding. Jack felt a warmth that transcended the cold, a sense of belonging that had once seemed elusive. Here in the heart of the forest and community, he had found home. The story of Jack Harper was no longer just one of survival. It was a narrative of courage, loyalty, and the enduring power of human connection. And as the stars began to shimmer overhead, the forest around them stood as a symbol, a beacon of hope inviting others to join in the ongoing journey of protection, healing, and unity.